Welcome back to another chapter. This is Vedat from Programmership. In this chapter, we are gonna talk about custom subscript. We already saw and used subscripts in collections. We have used for getting or setting value from an array. Let me write a basic array and remember how to use the normal subscript. Let's say var my days, that will be my array's name. And inside the array, let's add some days. Let's say Monday and Tuesday. Or the third one, let's say Wednesday, Thursday. And finally, let's say Friday. Now, let's try to print the first item of my days array by using subscript. Let's say print my days. And the first index is 0. Let me hit print. And it shows Monday. We can also update an item value by using subscript. Let's change Friday value. So in this case, Friday index is 4. The first one is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And here, let's say my days, the fourth value is best day. And here inside the print, let's try to print the fourth value and hit run. It says best day, just like that. This is what subscript is. Now it's time to make a custom subscript. I will create a basic structure and put this my days array into structure and make it private. So here, let's say struct, and I'm gonna say days. That will be my structure name. And inside structure, I will just cut this my days array and paste it in the days structure, and I will make it private. So let me delete these two lines. Now I'm gonna add a subscript feature for being able to get or set value of my days array. To do that, we will use subscript keyword. Here in the next line, let's give our keyword, which is subscript. And in the subscript, I will define a parameter, let's say index. Its type will be integer, and I will give a return type. That will be string. And open your curly bracket and close it, just like function definition, right? Here inside the subscript, I'm gonna use get and set keyword for returning and setting value. Get and set. Inside the set, I will return the self.myDaysIndex. And for the set value, we can grab the new value as new value parameter. And inside the set, we can just say self.myDaysIndex is equal to new value. Here our subscript gets an integer parameter and returns back a string value. And with this get and set property, it will have read-write feature. To make this subscript read-only, we can just delete set property. Now it's time to create an instance of the date structure and print an item of my days. Here, let's say var day is equal to days structure. And in the next line, let's try to print day, the fourth day value. And let's hit run. It says Friday. So here we passed the 4 into index, and in this case the get block was executed and the fourth value of my days array was returned back. Let's change the Friday value. Let's say the day fourth value is Friday 2, and let's hit print. As we can see, it was changed. We can also create multiple subscripts in our days structure. Let's add another one for getting the length of an item of the my days array. Here in the next line, let's say subscript, and I'm gonna have a length of external name, which is index, and its type will be integer again, and the return type will be integer, because this time I will return back a number. And this subscript will be read-only. For that, just get property will be enough. And inside the get, let's return the my days index dot count. Here outside of the structure, I'm gonna try to print the length of the first day. Let's delete this line, and here I will call my second subscript. It will start with length of external name, and as you can see, it needs an integer value. That will be our index for my array, and I want to first item which has 0 index, and it must return the length of the first item, which is Monday, and it must show the 6. Let's hit print. And there we go, it says 6. Let's try to print the length of the second value of array. Let's hit print. and it says 7. As we can see, the second item is Tuesday and its length is 7. Alright, I want to make another example to make custom subscript topic clear. Suppose you have an app and inside the app you download some images and display it to your users. To improve performance of our app, we can use the image caching approach. Caching basically keeps the image and its URL on the memory for future usage. If you need to display the same image you displayed before, you can get image from your memory and display it to your users instead of downloading the same image from the URL again and again. I want to create a structure that will handle the simple caching approach. As I said, in the caching we will keep the image and its URL address on the memory. To keep this information, we can use a dictionary. In our dictionary, we can create key as string and value as UI image type, which is the type for image. Key of the dictionary will store our URL address. First, we must import the UIKit framework for accessing the UI image type. And then we will create a structure called myImageCaching. First, at the must top, let's import the UIKit. And here, let me delete these example. Let's create a structure, struct, and its name is myImageCaching. Inside the structure, I'm going to define a private dictionary called myStorage, and its key will be string, its value will be in UI image type. That will be an empty dictionary. And here in the next line, let's create our custom subscript. Parameter will get the URL address, which is string value, and it will return back the UI image, and that will be optional because for some reason we may return nil value. And let's open our code block for subscripts. Inside, I will use get property. So first, let's check if there is any image stored in my storage dictionary for the given URL address. Let's say if let image is equal to my storage URL. Here in the if let statement, we try to get URL value from my storage dictionary. If there is no image for that URL, then it will return nil, and the else statement will be executed. If there is an image, then this if statement will be executed and we can just return the image. Here before the return, we can say print image returned from cache for clear understanding. In the else statement, if there is no image yet for the given URL address, then we have to get the image first, or let's say download the image, and then we will add it into our dictionary and return the image. Here in this chapter, I will not download an image from network, so instead I will add a basic image into resources folder and get that image instead. Here in the desktop, I have a basic image called mail. I will just drag it into resources folder and drop it. I will try to get the mail image. Of course, in the real world example, you will get image from network request according to your URL address. For the purpose of this chapter, I kept everything as simple as possible. Here, let's try to get the image. Let's say let new image is equal to UI image. And in the UI image, we have a parameter called named. For that parameter, we can use our parameter, which is URL. And in the next line, when we have the image, we can add it into my storage. Let's say my storage URL, which is our key, will be new image. And we can say print image newly added. And in the next line, let's return the new image. Or for the default, we can say nil if there is no new image. It seems we got an error. Let's check what it is. And because it is struct and we try to set a property inside the struct, we need to add mutating keyword just before the get property. Let's say mutating, and the error must go away. Yeah. Now it's time to create an instance of my image caching structure. Here outside of the structure, let's create a variable. It's a var test caching is equal to my image caching. And in the next line, let's try to print the test caching from, which is our subscript. And here we will give a URL parameter. In this case, I will say mail, which is the name of my image. Let's hit run. And it says image newly added, which makes sense because for the first time we called the image and the else statement was executed. So what happens if I try to call the same URL again? Let's copy this print statement and paste it again. Let me hit run. And at first it says image newly added for the first time, which is the result of first print statement. And for the second print statement it says image returned from cache, which is the if-let statement. That means in the second call our cached image was used. If I add another print statement and call the same URL, it will still use the cached image. Let's copy this print statement and paste it again and hit print. Here we can see at first print it says image newly added, it's alright, but for the next calls it says image returned from cache and again image returned from cache, just like that. Well, finally I want to talk about dynamic member lookup. Let me write down dynamic member lookup. With dynamic member lookup, we can create properties in runtime and use it in our code. I know it sounds weird, but let's make an example for better understanding. First, let me delete all of this. I'm gonna create a simple structure called person. Say struct person, and inside the struct, let's add some property. For example, a name property, which is string. And let's say surname. That will be string. And finally, let's add another property. For example, birth year, and that will be integer. And outside of the person structure, I'm gonna create an instance for my person is equal to person. And for the parameter, let's say David for the name as surname. Let's say Bruno. For the birth year, we can say 1980. Suppose you want to get the person's full name. What can we do about that? You may say that we can create a basic function that returns full name. Yeah, you are right. What if I want to get person's age? We can create another function for that too. Alright, I will show you another way to do this instead of creating different functions. Let's do the same thing by using dynamic member lookup. For that, we need to add a dynamic member lookup attribute at the top of our person structure. And then we'll use custom subscript. Here, let's say add dynamic member lookup. And inside the structure, I will create a subscript for our dynamic member lookup. Here in the subscript, I have to declare an external name, which is dynamic member. And that will be key. The type will be string and the return type will be string. To use dynamic member lookup, the dynamic member external name must be added into our subscript parameter, otherwise it will not work. So inside the subscript, I will use switch case statement. Let's say switch for the key value. I'm gonna create some cases. Let's say case full name. If the key is full name, let's return the self.name and self.surname. If the case is age, then we can return basically 23 minus self.birth year. Of course, you can use the current year for that, but let's keep it simple. Here, just because our return type is string, I need to cast it as string. And for the default values, we can just return a warning. Let's say key is unknown. So these cases will be our runtime property that is belong to our person structure. Now I will try to print the person full name. Let's say my person dot full name, and in the next line let's try to print the my person dot age, and let's hit run. It works. We just use full name and age cases just like a property of person structure. This is how dynamic member lookup works. Well, that's it for this chapter. I hope you have learned something. See you in the next one. Goodbye.